हेलो 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 किए जॉइन कले कि हाँ पहला मेन हूँ जे टॉपिक हूँ आमर जनरल पर्सपेक्टिव्स आम जा एनालिटिकल केमिस्ट्री जनरल पर्सपेक्टिव्स introduction part, that is a classification of chemical methods analysis, classification of different analytical techniques. पढ़िया मेनली कौन बोले कहल एनालिटिकल केमिस्ट्री एंड इंट्रोडक्शन classification of chemical methods of analysis. Then classification of chemical methods of analysis, classification of electrical analysis, optical methods, then nuclear methods, then thermal methods of analysis, separation methods, then criteria for evaluating the utility of analytical techniques, then dissolutions of the sample, separation of interfering substances, measurement, interpretation of the measurement, emerging needs and recent trends, summary technical questions and answers. Analytical chemistry and overview આપણે mainly આસુଛି ଆଜି ପଚାରୁଛୁ analytical methods ମାନେ କ'ଣ? Analytical methods ର ମାନେ ହେଉଛି ଯେ ଆମେ ଯେଉଁ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ୍ ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ କେମିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ହଉ କି ଫିଜିକ୍ସ ହଉ କି ବାୟୋଲୋଜି ହଉ କି ବାୟୋକେମିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ହଉ ଯାହା ବି ହଉ ତାର ଫଙ୍କସନାଲ ଗ୍ରୁପ ଡିଟେକ୍ସନ୍ କରିପାରିବା ଏବଂ ତାକୁ ନେଇକରି ଆମେ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଏନାଲିଟିକାଲ ମେଥଡ଼ରେ ତାର ଡେଲି ୟୁଜ୍ କ'ଣ ଜାଣିବା ଯେମିତି ଫର୍ ଏକ୍ଜାମ୍ପଲ୍ ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ କହିବି ଯେ ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଟରଡିସିପ୍ଲିନାରୀ ସବଜେକ୍ଟ ଆଉ ଏଥିରେ ମେନ୍ ଏହାର କନସର୍ନ ହେଉଛି ଯେ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ କେମିକାଲ ଆନାଲିସିସ୍ ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ ଆମେ ଆନାଲିଟିକାଲ ଡାଟାକୁ ବାହାର କରି ତାକୁ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରିବା ଏବଂ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରି ତା ରେଜଲ୍ଟକୁ ଆମେ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲେନ୍ କରିବା ଏବଂ ରେଜଲ୍ଟରୁ କ'ଣ ଫାଇଣ୍ଡିଙ୍ଗସ୍ ପାଇଲେ ତାକୁ ଆମେ ଆନାଲାଇଜ୍ କରିବା एनालिटिकल टूल्स है मतलब तो जो ब्लड टेस्ट गोटे एनालिटिकल टूल बा जेकोसी प्रकार मेडिकल टेस्ट कराउची से सब गला एनालिटिकल टूल्स तापर होची हम ए टूल माध्यम मेन होची मेनली हमें डिफरेंट क्लासिफिकेशन कर परिबा होची क्लासिकल मेथड्स ऑफ एनालिसिस इलेक्ट्रिकल मेथड्स ऑफ एनालिसिस होची ऑप्टिकल मेथड्स ऑफ एनालिसिस nuclear radiation methods of analysis, thermal methods of analysis or separations. Gravimetric analysis means analysis by weight and pertains to all determinations wherein the final results are obtained by means of analytical balance. Volumetry is the amount of the analyte that can be used or it can also be found in another way by measurement of the volume. Method based on accurate measurement of volume of a grade of a reagent solution of of accurately known as concentration. तो वॉल्यूम को मैं वॉल्यूमेट्रिक एनालिसिस भी समटाइम्स हमें कहते हैं अप्रोच क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिकल मेथड्स है पोटेंशियोमेट्री amperometry voltammetry colorimetry conductimetry and high frequency methods potentiometry होची mainly a method with the potential difference across an electrochemical cell को मापा इलेक्ट्रोकेमिकल सेल जानते हो जो हाफ सेल था कैथोड एनोडिक सेल और कैथोडिक सेल माने एनोड और कैथोड था और ताको भी डिफरेंस इन द स्टैंडर्ड इलेक्ट्रिक पोटेंशियल हमें ताको डिफरेंस ता बाहर कर पोटेंशियल डिफरेंस ई cathode minus E anode or E cathode minus depending on the oxidation or reduction. এবং যদি আমি তার pH মাপুଛୁ ତେବେ ତାକୁ ଆମେ pH metry ବି କହିବୁ। ଆମ୍ପେରୋମେଟ୍ରି ହେଲା କ'ଣ କି ଏଇଟା ବୋଧେ ରିସେଣ୍ଟଲି ବାହାରିଛି ଏମାନେ ହେଲା ଯେ ଯଦି ଆମେ କରେଣ୍ଟର ୟୁନିଟ୍କୁ ଆମ୍ପିୟର ନେଉଛୁ ନର୍ମାଲି ତ ଆମ୍ପିୟର ତାର କରେଣ୍ଟର ୟୁନିଟ୍ ହେଲା ତ ଏଇଟା ଜେନେରାଲି ଆପ୍ଲାଏ ଫର ଡିଟେକ୍ସନ ଅଫ୍ ଇକ୍ୱିଭାଲେନ୍ସ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ୍ ଦ ଟାଇଟ୍ରେସନ and method is known as amperometric titration and usually involves one micro electrode as an indicator electrode. ଗୋଟେ ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ଇଲେକ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡକୁ ଆମେ ଇଣ୍ଡିକେଟର ଇଲେକ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡ ନେବା ତାପରେ ପାଖରେ ତାକୁ ଆମେ ଯାହାକୁ ଆମେ ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ଇଲେକ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡ ବୋଲିଲେ କହିଥାଉ current at a fixed potential is measured as a function of titan volume. On plotting the data, two straight lines with different slopes are obtained on both sides of the equivalence point. Volumetrimetry. It's in voltammetry, an electroactive species is consumed only at the surface layer of the indicator electrode in an electric cell. The resulting current due to electron transfer process is measured as a function of applied potential. The current versus potential curves are plotted. Next is conductometry and high frequency methods. The measurement of conductance can sometimes be useful in chemical analysis. That is called as conductometry because conductometry is performed in two different ways. In one way, an analysis can be computed directly from conductance measurement, and in other, conductometry is applied to the determination of the equivalence point of titration. Conductometry titrations where the change in conductance related to concentration changes of the ionic species involved in the titration reaction are more frequently applied. Classification of optical methods of analysis. Emission spectroscopy, absorption spectroscopy, ultraviolet or visible spectroscopy, then fluorophotometry, turbidimetry, and nephelometry, Raman spectroscopy. এটা হচ্ছে এমিশন স্পেক্ট্রোস্কোপি জানতে এসব জিনিসটাকে স্পেক্ট্রা +3 রে পড়া ହୁଏ ପିଜି ରେ ପଢା ହଉଛି এটা ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ୍ରୋସ୍କୋପିକ ମେଥଡ ଏଥିରେ କ'ଣ ହୁଏ ନା ଇଲେକ୍ଟ୍ରୋମ୍ୟାଗ୍ନେଟିକ ରେଡିଏସନ ଦିଆଯିବ ଏବଂ ଗୋଟେ ଯେକୌଣସି ଆନାଲାଇଟ୍କୁ ଏକ୍ସାଇଟ୍ କରାଯିବ ଥର୍ମାଲି ଇଲେକ୍ଟ୍ରିକାଲି ବା ରେଡିଏଣ୍ଟ ଦେଇକରି ଦେନ୍ କ'ଣ ତାର କ୍ୟାରେକ୍ଟରିଷ୍ଟିକ୍ସ ଏମିଶନ ସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ୍ରମକୁ ଆନାଲିସିସ୍ କରାଯିବ quantitative determinations are also possible as during the burning of the sample under controlled condition the energy emitted for a given spectral line of an element is proportional to number of atoms that are excited and consequently the concentration of the element in the sample can be known. Then I will today infrared absorption spectroscopy involves the absorption of infrared radiation and depending on increasing the energy of vibration or rotation associated with a covalent bond. Fluorophotometry, the energy of the photon of incident radiation absorbed and the changes in the observing species to excited state. Thermometric methods are mainly the concentration of the suspensions where small solid particles are homogeneously exposed in the liquid medium. Analytical methods where determination are made by measuring opticity of suspension of small particles with the help of measuring intensity of transmitted light is known as thermometry.
Electric.
Telephone bill down, telephone bill down.
আর ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ହଁ ସେଟା କଥା ହେଇଥିଲେ ସେ କହିଲେ କାଲି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଜଣେଇବେ କୋଉ ଯାଏଁ ସରିଛି ମାନେ ଆଉ କେତେ ଦିନ ଅଛି ହେଲେ ଆମେ ପୁଣି ଆଉଥରେ ଲଗେଇ କରିବୁ ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ ମାସ ହିସାବରେ ହେଇଥିଲା ହଁ ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ ଗୋଟେ ବର୍ଷ ପାଇଁ ହେଇଥିଲା ହଁ
ବିଲ୍ ଦେଖୁନ ମୁଁ
ସେଇ ଫାଇଲ୍ ଅଛି ତ
classification of nuclear methods, radiochemical methods, radiometric methods, isotopic dilution methods, activation analysis, Moser-Based spectroscopy, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, mass spectroscopy. Either Moser-Based spectroscopy are very important. The analytical methods based on the study of the phenomenon of the resonance fluorescence or gamma rays are known as Moser-Based spectroscopy. ମାନେ gamma ray ର fluorescence light କୁ ନେଇକିରି ଆମେ କରିବା. It involves intranuclear energy levels. An important characteristics of this radiation is the extreme sharpness of lines. Lines बहुत sharp ଅଛି. Mass spectroscopy is a method based on the study of converting molecules into chargeless particles, their separation on the basis of mass to charge ratio, and measurement of the intensity of lines of mass spectrum. The instrument used in the mass spectrometer which separates the charged gas molecule according to their masses. Thermogravity TG reactants to products. Yeah. Thermogravimetric analysis involves the present of the sample in reactants as its temperature is increased at a linear rate. TGA, a suitable solid sample undergoes the following type of reactions. Next, differential scanning calorimetry. In differential scanning calorimetry, the sample and the reference materials are subjected to precisely programmed temperature change. When a thermal transition occurs in the sample, temperature changed is balanced by adding thermal energy to either the sample or the reference. DSC can measure directly both the temperature and the enthalpy of a transition. Classification of separation methods. Chromatography, solvent extraction, ion exchange, electrophoresis, like this. Electrophoresis is also ion exchange is important for this. Ion exchange is a stoichiometric process in which a solid material known as ion exchanger when comes in contact with electrolyte solution takes either positive or negative ions and release the ions of the like charges to the solution. The solid materials having cations as exchangeable ions are known as cation exchanger and having anions or exchangeable ions known as anion exchanger. Electrophoresis is the movement of charged particles in the influence of an electric field. In general, is known as electrophoresis. If the components of a mixture have different velocities under the influence of electric field, it is possible to separate them. Next is some modern methods, classical methods are there. Some classical methods are there. Precipitation, distillation, sublimation, formation of complexes. But main chromatography is the best technique, you can say. It is a multi-stage separation process in which the sample is applied on a stationary phase or the which the mobile phase is percolated. Various solutes present in the sample are separated on the basis of differential migration. Chromatography can be classified into various kinds depending on the nature of the stationary and mobile phase and the mechanism of distribution involved. These kinds are named as paper chromatography, the thin layer chromatography, liquid chromatography, high performance liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, gel chromatography, partition chromatography, adsorption chromatography, ion exchange chromatography, electrochromatography. Then criteria for evaluating the Utility of the analytical methods. Sampling, resolution of the sample, separation of interfering substances, measurements, interpretation of the measurements. Separation of interfering substances, measurements, interpretation of the measurement, emerging needs and recent trends. Instrumental methods are developed only recently, mainly because of the two reasons. First of all, the physical bodies on which these methods are based were not known earlier. Secondly, the design of the instrument requires a lot of investment. Furthermore, for every physical property to be measured, a separate instrument is to be designed. There is a spectrophotometer to measure observance, a pH meter to measure pH, and a photometer to measure conductance. The invention of spectroscope, but with an extremely fruitful analysis analytic approach, and gradually a few chromatographic methods were invested. After it was found that electrical measurements could detect endpoints in iteration, and several electrical electromethods were developed. So we have self-assessment things like a method to be called as analytical technique should be based on the measurement of the property which is related to either the nature or the amount of substance under examination. There is gravimetric analysis, volumetric analysis. In volumetry, when a special type of micro electrode, a dropping mercury electrode is used as the indicator. Chromatography is a multi-stage separation method. Gravimetry ହେଉଛି the analytical method where uh, the determinations are made by measuring opacity of suspensions. Means କେତେ ଗୋଳିଆ ଦେଖାଯାଉଛି of small particles with the help of measuring intensity of transmitted light in order turbidimetry. Nephelometry which is measuring the intensity of light scattered by a suspension of small particles. The intensity of light scattered by a suspension of small particles is called nephelometry or radioactive disintegration of radioisotopes can be measured with a high sensitivity and specificity. TGA, DTG, DTA, DSC, TET. ତାପରେ ଯିବା ଆମେ ୟୁନିଟ୍ 2 କୁ ଯିବା। Evaluation of analytical data. Error and type of errors. E is equal to O minus T. Errors and type of errors. Determine errors. Operational errors and methodic errors. Calibration of equipment and purification of reagents. Use of blank. Addition of a standard. Independent analysis. Improvement in methods. Accuracy and precision. then reporting of results, numerical expression of results, significant figures. ये पिला प्लस पढ़ा होता significant figures कौन? The digits of a number which are needed to be express the precision of a measurement from which number was derived are known as significant figures. 1 to 9 are always significant figures. 0 may or may not be a significant figure. A digit signifies the amount of the quantity in a space place in which it stands. 4, 5, 4, 2, figures 3, the 500, 4, 10 and 2 units and therefore all significant. Zero after 1 in 12.610 gram is significant because this is the part of the measurement. Similarly, expression the concentration of copper sulfate, the three digits are all significant. In the last number, I think included the 0 before 1 are just to locate the decimal point and therefore are not significant. pH केमती बाहर करेगा pH है minus log H plus concentration minus log 4.8 into the minus 3. तो जो भी जा Thank you very much. रेडी हो बोली मीटिंग चलिए मेडिकल